2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
Why is my wife refusing intimacy with me?
Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers.
We're therapists.
And we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin.
Brannon, I know I say this a lot, but this will be a good one today.
I love when you say that.
I think this question is probably for probably especially the men that are listening right now. Spouse, like probably 90% of them are wondering this question.
Well, get ready because we got some answers for you. You might not like the answers, but we got answers for you.
It's probably not going to go as well as you hope for when you're listening to this.
Yeah.
Well, we do have some thoughts and ideas, actually.
Actually, you apply the things that we talk about today, and it might go the way you want it to.
Yeah, so. Actually, I think we do have some answers to this. Yeah. Probably every situation's a little bit different, but we'll get into it in a minute here.
Yeah. But before we do, Tyler, we want to invite couples on. If you're a couple and you're in limbo land and you're stagnating and you're just surviving, your roommates, maybe you're working recovery, but you've gotten so far and it's like, is this it? Is that as far as that goes? We want to do some episodes on that limbo land. We want to do episodes on helping couples move further, to go deeper, to push past some fear, to create different outcomes in their relationship. So we want to invite you on. Tyler, how do they come on to the show? How do they sign up?
Yeah, I mean, we love to talk to anybody who's got a question. So if you have a question and you don't fall in that category, feel free to come too. But therapybrothers.org, right on the very front page, you click the button that says talk to the brothers or ask a question, come on the show. And then it's really simple after that. You sign up and you find a time slot that we have open, and we'd love to have a conversation with you. It's so fun. It's so fun when we get guests on, especially because they're starting to kind of come from all over the world a little bit. So it feels, it's really cool to just see the common humanity that from even all over the world, we as human beings have the same questions, the same issues. And then for us, it's a treat because we get to meet so many new people.
Amazing people too. Courageous people come on our show. So come and be one of those courageous people, because we would love to get to know you and help you in any way that we can. So, Tyler, before we dive into this, I do want to give the little caveat that, we're going to talk more specifically about a husband who is wondering how to have more intimacy with his wife. And this is a triggering topic.
Yeah.
Um, but a breakdown in intimacy happens in all directions. This isn't just a my wife won't give me more sex thing. I think more common than some know is the other way, where the wife is wondering he never wants intimacy. He's pushing me away, and so I just
And
want to
when you say intimacy in that sense, Brandon, it's more than sex.
yeah, sex is a part of that.
Yeah.
But even that, like even the sex part, like the woman is wondering, God, we were never having sex in our relationship. So I just want to acknowledge that this goes both directions. And I think that we could do a separate episode about the opposite way. And but one thing that I've seen a lot, and I've talked to actually some sex therapists, a very common thing that happens is a couple sits down in a therapy session, and the therapist says, well, why are you here? What's going on? And he says something to the effect of, we're not having enough sex. Like, there's something wrong with her, basically. And I'm unhappy. I'm unsatisfied. Things are not okay because we need to have more sex. Quite common, right, Tyler?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that happens frequently.
Um, and so when that happens, when someone comes in, Tyler, where do you begin?
Well, it's interesting because if you dig a little bit deeper and you then ask her, why did she come? Her answer isn't usually like, well, because I want to have more sex. Her answer usually has something to do with something else that's broken in the relationship that is kind of contributing to a lack of desire to want to be intimate.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a good point, Tyler, because when sexual intimacy breaks down in a relationship, it usually has not much to do about sex itself. It's about something different. It's more of an outcome than it is the issue. And so when you dig in and she says, well, I want something different, it's funny because if he's in there complaining that they're not having enough sex, he's showing up entitled, he's showing up pressury, he's showing up all those ways, which, you know what he's doing?
He's actually inviting less sex.
Yeah, into his life.
Yeah, he doesn't even know it. He thinks he's trying to help solve the problem because in his mind he's focusing on a certain thing and the outcome, it's what sex represents to him, and a lot of times sex and the frequency of sex is associated with the nature of the relationship and the state of the relationship for him.
Yep.
And then when he goes and tries to chase that down over and over again, it actually does the exact opposite thing that he is hoping that it will do.
Right. It pushes her further away. It's not it's not exciting or fun to be forced or pressured in any way. And a natural thing for women is that they want to feel cared for, they want to feel seen, they want to feel valued and accepted right where they're at. And to them, when they feel that, it then invites an opportunity to surrender and be vulnerable. And so when along comes husband and he's like, hey, where's my sex? Like, what the heck? Where is it? That's the opposite of that. And it really destroys that and undermines it. Let's talk about some other things that destroy it and undermine it, Tyler, because there's other things as well. And I'm sure you have a long list here and we could probably go on for days. But things like broken trust, things like using sex to manage things out of fear over time will destroy a sex life.
What, explain that a little bit further, like manage things out of fear.
Well, like let's take this example. Let's say a wife is engaging sexually because she feels like her husband she knows her husband has cheated on her in the past, or she feels like he could be. or he could be acting out with porn or masturbation or whatever way. And she's just like, I just want him to want me.
So then I engage in sex, hoping to hold on to him.
I'll initiate and I'll do things that are out of my comfort zone just to be enough for him and just to be wanted. And so that isn't intimacy. That is sex being used out of fear. And so long term, and by the way, Tyler, with that one, it's both people's work to fix that.
Yeah, well, and there's another side of that with the husband that's pursuing. Sometimes the pursuit is out of a place of fear because they're using sex sometimes as the medicine to be reassured that everything's okay in the relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's quite common. Especially I think for men, it's like, well, if I can get her to have sex with me, then we're good. Like everything's okay now, and then everything's fine, and you know, but that is again sex being used as
From a
a
place of fear.
yeah, from a place of fear,
Yeah.
which will undermine safety, which will undermine healthy sex in the relationship.
Yeah.
Do you have any others?
Yeah, no. So you were talking about the things that break it down. Sex, it breaks down when it feels like a commodity. It breaks down when it's emotionally distant and it lacks emotional intimacy.
So say more commodity about that one.
It's almost like one partner becomes a consumer of the other person. It's almost the energy is that I'm coming and taking from you rather than offering and receiving from you.
Yeah.
It's like I'm coming and I'm going to, the daily quest we talk about on our podcast. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to make sure I go to work. When I come home, I'm going to make sure I do the dishes and I mop the floor. And then I take the kids and, to McDonald's and play at the park. And then I come home and put them to bed. And the only reason I do all those things is so that we have sex tonight.
You owe me.
That's a commodity based system of sex inside of a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. You owe me. Where is it? And if I don't get it, I pout and I think, will I earn this? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I said it can be like emotionally distant. That breaks it down sometimes. That's where people have something we call sealed off sex, where it becomes only about the physical, and the whole goal is to make sure there's climax rather than the experience together. That sometimes can break it down over time. Sex is degrading. If it's degrading to one partner or the other, it might be fun in the moment, but it breaks it down over time.
Tyler, can I just comment to like a mix of all three of these that you've mentioned is like, it really shows itself in the bedroom, and not to get into too many details. But when sex is about a transaction so that I can feel good. And this gets confusing because sometimes you think, well, that means the man is just out to orgasm, and once that happens, then everything's good. But it's not just that. Sometimes the commodity is I help you feel pleasure and then I feel good.
That means I'm good enough.
Yeah. So I've still used sex as a commodity, even though you're the one getting the pleasure, but I'm getting like a lot of pleasure from you getting the pleasure.
Right. I'm getting my value as a person, because there's nothing wrong with me offering that and loving you and wanting you to experience that, because I care about you and I want you to have that. And the byproduct is that is gratifying to me, because that's when we serve people, when we offer ourselves, the natural byproduct is that it feels good. But when I have to do that in order to then prove to myself that I'm a good enough person, then that becomes a commodity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And all the other things you're talking about, it's degrading. It's used in all the wrong ways.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times with husbands that are asking this question, they don't really know what they're asking for. because they think the solution is the amount, the frequency, the intensity of the sex, when in reality they have a meaning that's associated with sex that doesn't ever really get communicated because it's the topic of we don't have enough sex, rather than, hey, this is a way for me to connect with you. This is a way for me. I want to make sure that there's a certain set of conditions that are in place where I want a willing partner. You know, how many men have you talked to in the past, Brannon, that if they're being honest with you, of course there's a part of them that physically just wants the physical sort of like sexual response to happen because that physically is pleasurable and it feels good. But then they do that with their partner without having other conditions underneath it, like safety and trust, and especially their partner's full engagement, that they get done with that and they're like, oh, I feel empty. It didn't quite
all the time.
Like it didn't really, that's not what I was going for. What I was going for was my partner's engagement. Like,
yeah, love, connection, intimacy.
Yes. So then, but then they double down and think it needs more sex to then feel that way, rather than going into the other parts of the relationship and saying, I got to figure out how to help create safety and trust and other forms of intimacy so there is engagement, because that engagement really matters.
It's a losing game to try to just, because I think all the chemicals that get released in the brain after sex, it's like, oh, this just feels good. This is great. And so, and I especially I think a lot of times in a man's brain, it's like the world is right. Like we just had sex, right? Yeah. But then afterwards, you're right. Like it's like, yeah, but like it still feels yuck. It's still like it doesn't feel great. And there's still a void between us. There's still a lack of intimacy. It's interesting, Tyler, if you were to think about, let's say that every time you have sex, it's a drop in the bucket that's like, oh, that's good. That feels good in the relationship. Yay, we had sex. That feels good. And a lot of times the partner's sitting there and saying, we're not putting very many drops in that bucket of feel good. Like that, why don't we do that more? Let's do that more. Let's say there's another bucket, and that bucket is emotional connection or spiritual connection. And you sit down in a therapy session or whatever, and you say, well, like there's like, if we were able to count emotional connection the way we're able to count the frequency of sex, maybe it'd be a different story, because we can see that there is a void there. There's a big void there. And it's easy to sit here and talk about how we haven't had sex in 2 weeks versus, you know what, we haven't even laughed with each other in 2 weeks. We haven't prayed together in 2 weeks. We haven't had other connections where we've empathized with each other in 2 weeks. Why don't we talk about those things? Because those things, if you do those things consistently, what happens?
Yeah, I mean, that leads to an overarching more connection and intimacy in the relationship, which then makes those are some of the conditions that set the stage for the best kind of sexual intimacy.
Right.
Brannon, I'm having this image in my mind just as you're talking. I want to just actually expand this for a second, that maybe there's 20 buckets that are all on the same scale, let's say. Mm-hmm. And the goal is to overall have the largest amount of water on the scale across all of the buckets. Mm-hmm. And so if you have emotional intimacy, you have spirituality, you have respect, nurturing, trust, genuine connection, trust, especially trust is a massive one, self-esteem, healthy boundaries. If you have a whole bunch of those different buckets, it's kind of like defeating the purpose if you draw from one bucket to try to put it in the sex bucket.
Right.
So
right.
the more buckets that you can put a drop in at the same time, the better the overall experience for both partners.
Yes.
So if I'm having a sexual experience with my partner and there happens to be emotional connection, maybe occasionally there's even a spiritual kind of connection, or there's some kind of respect, boundaries, trust, there's all of those drops getting put into all of those buckets. That's a much more enriching experience than me having to draw from the trust bucket or draw from the emotional bucket in order to get the sexual bucket filled.
Explain that, draw from the trust bucket, draw from the emotional bucket. What do you mean?
Well, if I have a partner who is feeling used, then I get my sex because she engages with me, but I had to draw from the emotional and the intimacy and the safety bucket. And now I'm dealing with resentment from her, emptiness because the experience wasn't quite as good, but I got the sex bucket filled.
Right. So it's like she's guilt tripped into having sex. She gives it to you because she feels so guilty, and you
She's
take
supposed to, or because I've demanded it, or whatever else.
you take it, and then it's like, hey, you withdrew from safety. You withdrew from trust.
I withdrew from all of the goodness that I'm trying to build in order to have this moment because I think I needed to fill that bucket.
Yeah. Yep, you're absolutely right. But it feels, it's kind of, Tyler, what we're talking about is like, do you take the bird in your hand or the one in the bush or two in the bush, or
Sure.
and that's kind of the feeling a lot of times. Like, I'll take the one in my hand. I'll have the sex right now at the cost of these other things. I'll have the unhealthy sex at the cost of these other things, because at least right now I know I can have it. I'm desperate and I'll take it. And so versus like, let's say your partner's not there with you. They're not connected. They're not in the mood. They don't want to have sex, but they're like, fine. Like, yeah, okay, you've broken me down. Think what it would be like to say, you know what, I'm going to be patient and wait for the two birds in the bush, so to speak. I'm going to care about you. I'm going to understand where you're at. And you know what? I'm going to like handle my sexuality here and show that I'm okay, and that it's not about this right now.
And to show that I want a different kind of experience than just the consumption of your body. I'd rather wait until the conditions are right that we can both mutually enjoy this.
But here's the catch-22, Tyler. Is it still okay to hope for sex?
Of course.
Yeah.
To want it every single day.
So that's the catch-22 here.
There's a paradox inside of this.
Yeah, like you can hope for sexual intimacy. That's absolutely healthy. And you can be okay with not getting it.
You can hope for it. You can actually pursue it. And you can create space where it's okay for your partner to say no.
Yeah, and no is always the right answer, and that's okay.
And that's okay. And I can be okay with that, but I also don't need to shut down my own sexuality or my own drives. And in some ways, like, I think a lot of people would relate to this. My wife likes to know that I'm attracted to her. She likes to be pursued, and she also likes to know that she doesn't have to do it every time I pursue her.
Exactly.
Right.
That's kind of the right place of like, okay, I want pursuit from you, but I don't want force. I don't want guilt trip. I want
pressure.
I want respect.
I don't want pressure.
I want love. I want you to meet me where I'm at.
I want to be chosen.
Yeah. And so then there's this place of like, this may lead to sexual intimacy. It could lead there. But it could also lead to like you crying in my arms and me holding you and you having no desire for sex. But I love that intimacy too. Well, let's take that, right? But the underlying principles here, Tyler, are healthy sexuality is about, in many ways, presence and mindfulness and connection with your partner in a selfless way. And so if you're selfless, but you're connected to them, that opens up real opportunities for some good intimacy. But in order to get to that place, you really have to be out of your fear and in a lot of ways out of your ego, so that you can be there with them to create that space with them. And so you throw things in like past trauma and betrayal and broken trust and those type of things. And it's really difficult sometimes to create that healthy environment to foster healthy sexuality in a relationship, because there's so many complex things that have gone on.
Absolutely. I say this to people a lot when they ask this question, and I think they come in asking the question like, how do we have more sex, or how do we have better sex? And they're looking for they're always looking for the outcome tool of like, hey, try this thing or do that thing, when in reality, that it's a principle-based answer to this question all the time, which is, if you want better and more sex, figure out your own shame resiliency. Figure out your integrity, create safety, choose to see the other person and cultivate the whole relationship. And if you start doing those things, And there's some research on this actually, that couples who have been together for a long time and they have sort of like a committed relationship with each other, they actually report having the best sex, which
Right.
goes totally against what society says. Society says go out and have a bunch of different partners. And people who have a safe place, who know they're chosen, who are respectful with one another, that actually gives permission, especially if there's shame resiliency, to then go and have experience together that is creative. Like sex in and of itself is a messy process. It's a messy process emotionally. It's a messy process spiritually. It's a messy process physically. Like there needs to be the practice of vulnerability. And in order to have that, there needs to be safety and trust.
Yep. Yep. Tyler, I do want to, this is kind of a side note, maybe different, almost different topic, but sometimes there are cases where, not by the fault of anybody, but sex is difficult. When there's physical pain,
Oh, sure.
when there's medical issues. And the reason I bring this up is because it's a natural, like it's natural for us humans to want sex. It's totally good and totally normal. And when that isn't available in a relationship, it does cause some tension,
Strain.
some
Sure.
strain. And
Sure.
and so when there's things like the physical stuff, you can take it two directions. This is a great example. You can take it to resentment and
Shame, like taking it personally.
victim moping around, or you can meet your partner right where they're at and you can say, what can we do to work together to have what the healthiest sex life that we possibly can have? What help do we need to get? What guidance do we need? What work do we need to do the best that we can? And maybe the best that we can is this, and we have to accept that. That's a reality of our situation. But at least we know we're both on the same page and working toward that. And if you have a lot of the things that you talked about, Tyler, of the principles behind it, then it's much easier to navigate something like that together because you trust each other, you feel safe with each other, you feel seen. There's not resentment and there's not anger and playing the victim.
Exactly. I like that idea of blame. And all of a sudden, if you can do that, so this is a tool called externalizing, where you take whatever the holdup is, the problem. Let's say there is one of those problems. It might be a physical thing, or it might even be an emotional or past trauma kind of a thing. And if you can come alongside your partner and externalize the problem to be the thing that you guys are both looking at together, then you can take a journey together and give yourself permission to be in process, to be learning, to be growing together. And there's still an opportunity for connection, closeness, intimacy, even in that journey. And maybe it gets to a certain point and that's what you have to accept is good enough. Or sometimes you give yourself permission to do both and be accepting of where we're at while also hoping and still working towards something new. And it's totally okay to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. And Tyler, what you're talking about is, and I think this is so hard in relationships, but it's not, it really is that interdependency of not taking personally where the other person is at. So whether it's physical, emotional, whatever, if it's their past trauma, it's, I'm strong enough to let you be you. I'm going to let you be you. You can be. And because of that, I can be strong enough to hold space for you, to be there for you, and to create trust with you.
That's both directions in the relationship, Brannon, right?
Absolutely.
It's
so,
like, yeah.
So Tyler, think if my worth is tied to how often or how much you want to have sex with me, then my codependency is going to destroy it. And when my worth is not tied to that, then our frequency of sexual intimacy, the weight of the world doesn't depend on that. And I can still be honest about how often I want to have sex or whatever, but it's not everything dependent upon that.
Exactly. And doing that individual work to separate my identity from the frequency of sex. what it does by nature is it puts you back in the place of having accountability to manage yourself. And here's the interesting thing about a lot of relationships, I would say most relationships, is that a woman wants to be chosen, she wants to be cherished, she wants to know that she's safe, and she wants trust. And a man wants to be seen, he wants to be respected, he wants to be seen as like appreciated, and he wants to be seen as valuable or good enough,
strong enough.
And the interesting thing is if he goes to her to get that answered, especially in those sexual ways, it never will be answered. And it reinforces in her that she's not being chosen. But if he, if he takes this thing, so the man who asked the question, like, how do I have more sex? Look yourself in the mirror, go to work on your shame resiliency, your integrity, your consistency, and you will grow into the man that is now offering your strength and choosing and cherishing your wife. And as a result, your wife will actually want to lean more into you because that's attractive to her.
Yes.
Like she knows she's being chosen. She knows that you have a strength. She knows that you can stand in your own values now and not flex. And as a result, that opens her up to feeling like, oh, I'm safe enough to actually be myself here too. Mm-hmm. And of course, she has to do her own work on that shame resiliency too. And if two people are doing that together, then that makes the best opportunity to show up with each other.
Yep. Sex therapy is great. But a lot of times what happens is it's what you said, Tyler. It's you come on in to therapy and what you realize is like, look, we gotta split up on this work that we're doing here so that then we can have good sexual intimacy in our relationship. We got to go do our individual stuff. We got to go work on ourselves, strengthen ourselves so then we can create healthy sexual intimacy and stop beating our head against a wall and actually creating further damage by being so focused on this thing that we got to fix, and let it naturally happen.
Focus on a process rather than the outcome. Like the outcomes will take care of yourself if the inputs to the process are the right things.
Yes. Another thing, just another little pointer is approach your partner with compassion and with the attitude that they're doing the best that they possibly can. And if you approach them with, you're failing me, what have you
shut that down?
What have you done for me lately? You're ruining my life because I'm dependent upon you for my sex in my life.
We're not equally yoked. I'm putting more into this than you are.
Any of that, like meet them right where they're at with compassion, and maybe they're broken. Maybe they have some things to work through, and they're really their protective parts are everywhere and pushing against you. Your best bet to help them lower those protective parts is by being a safe person, and meeting them where they're at and having them feel from you your compassion.
Easier said than done, and that's why the ability to not take it personally really matters, is because it offers you the chance to put that energy towards those things you just said, Brannon. Instead of being in your own place of your own protective parts coming up and being like, well, I've got to have this or this or this. It's like, no. I'm here and I am for my partner. I see my partner. I'm here for the overall experience that we're having together rather than just getting mine.
Yep. Now I want to say something before we wrap up, Tyler, and this is kind of, if you've betrayed your partner and you feel from them that they're acting in a fear cycle and giving you sex because they're afraid that you're going to abandon and reject them, don't take advantage of that.
Man.
Shut that down. In fact, like you'll feel it. Shut that down and say, look, I don't want, and it's not that you're rejecting sex from them, but I am rejecting that type of sex because I want to work on actual healing in our relationship, and creating healthy sex in our relationship.
Yeah. So when you say the fear cycle, Brannon, you're talking about that way of like sometimes it's a partner's natural tendency to want to try to fix the relationship or hold on to the relationship or feel like they're not good enough, so they have to do X, Y, or Z. So they're doing it out of like compulsion and fear. Man, this is really tough. I cringed when you said that, Brannon, because my own journey includes what you just said. And I'm like, oh, like that was, I believed so deeply that like sex was my biggest need that I would take any way that it came.
Right. If it was offered,
If
yes.
it was offered. And yet what I could have done to create way more safety and healing a lot faster is that in those moments when there was that fear or that compulsion, if I would have had the inner strength to say, you know what, of course I am deeply attracted to you. Of course I would love to have sex, but let's wait till the conditions are right.
Right. And if you could back up, Tyler, and say something like, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
We don't have to do this for you to know that I'm still going to do the work and I'm here.
I'm here. And I mean that. Like, we really don't have to do this. Like that, something like that is way better than like, yeah, giddy up. Here we go. This is great. Like, it's offered, and you're feeling all of the fear and the
What
guilt
makes me feel terrible, Brannon, is like, you think about that. How many times have you been in the office, especially maybe early on as a therapist, and, the first meeting, there's all this betrayal, and the very next meeting, you have the guy come in, and he's like, holy cow, like, things have never been better. Like, we've had so much sex the last week. Like, And back in the past, as a therapist, not understanding that process or the fear cycle, you're like, oh, cool, you guys are figuring it out. Whereas now, if someone comes into the office, you're like, oh, hold on a second. You think it's way better, but you are not tuned in to what her emotions are.
That's why I bring it up, Tyler, because I see it all the time, and it's on one hand, for the wife, it's like I want them to get conscious and to realize, look, I'm not going to act out of my fear to try to save my marriage here, and I try to help the husband realize that's not healthy sex. That's not gonna that actually is doing damage to the relationship in those moments.
If either partner is operating from a place of fear or compulsion, it's better to wait till the conditions change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Tyler, this has been a good discussion.
Yeah, interesting. It'll be interesting to see what kind of feedback we get on this one. I'm sure there's lots of feelings, questions, emotions that are going through people who are listening right now. We would love to hear from you. If you have thoughts about this, or if you want to continue the discussion, or if you even disagree with Brannon and I, we'd love to have a conversation. But yeah, we're glad you're with us.
Yep. And you guys, if this is helpful, please share it. And until next time, keep on keeping on.